Today I was doing this exercise where I was writing down beautiful moments in my life, and I remembered this one story when I was in Germany and I was having a reunion with my friends from university, who I was friends with when I studied abroad in New Zealand. And I was staying with one of my friends, Sonia, with her and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend had bought this house in this small town in Germany, about an hour south of Frankfurt, and it was in this beautiful sort of countryside, scenic, rural setting of Germany, with this really old German style buildings, very cute. And I got to her house first, and then she showed me around. She took me on the train, and we took the train up to Heidelberg, which is a nearby town to where she was staying. And we took a walk and a stroll on these sort of cobblestone roads that were very old. And the town of Heidelberg is surrounds Heidelberg Castle, which is a very famous castle. And it was a beautiful day, and we walked up these steps and walked up to the top of to the top of the castle. And we looked out, and we could see the River Rhine. And we took photos, and we sat by the the bench right by the river. We just chatted and talked. And anyway, we went back to her house, and the next day all my other friends came. There was three other friends, two from the Netherlands and one from Germany. And we all took the train out from her house. We took a walk to the train from her house, and her brother, Sonia's brother, joined us. And we were going to a wine tasting. And so we got on the train, and we're all happy and joyous. We're all reunited. We're together again. And we take this train ride. I think it took about, like half an hour or something like that to get to this sort of vineyard area. It was a small little town that had many vineyards. So we get off the train, and we're walking, and this vineyard is beautiful. It's just so green. Everything is green. All the walls are covered in ivy. And it was a little bit overcast that day, but it was still such a beautiful day. And we go inside this quaint little sort of cottage, which was at the front of this vineyard. And we get a table, we're seated, and we proceed to have this sort of wine tasting. We're greeted by this one woman who she's half Spanish, I believe, and half German. And she spoke both Spanish and German, and she was doing the wine tasting in English so that I could understand, because I was the only one who didn't speak. Oh, no, that's not true. My two Dutch friends didn't know German as well, so I was not alone in that. But she goes down the list and brings out the wines and pours our glasses, and we're having this beautiful wine tasting, and we're all laughing, and we're all drinking and sipping on this wine. And it's I just remember looking at the faces of all of them, of all my friends, and being in this little small vineyard town in Germany. And I was happy, and it was beautiful, and the wine was beautiful, and the company was beautiful. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is what life is about. It's about friendship. About laughing. It's about getting a little wine drunk, you know. And so that was one of the beautiful moments of my life. And I remember after that wine tasting, we got back on the train. Now we're a little tipsy, and we hop back onto the. We go to an adjacent town that's having a wine festival. Apparently, in this region of Germany, when the weather starts to get nice in the springtime and the summertime, every weekend a small town will have a little wine tasting. So I believe the town we went. No, no, that's not the name. I'm trying to remember the name of the town we went to this wine festival at, but I don't remember. So at this wine festival, they have a bunch of pop up tents and things like that, and um, each pop up tent has food, some German treats. And I wish I could remember the name of these German treats. I remember schnitzel was one of them. Um, there was another one that it's this very big dough, like it's just a round dough thing that's fried, and you dip it in this like white sauce. I remember we got that; it was very delicious. And then I remember we got a few bottles of rosé, and we got some pizza and just a spread of food, and we got a table, and we continued to drink wine. So we got even a little bit more happy throughout the evening, and again, we were just all enjoying each other's company. And then I remember we got up and took a walk, and we found a band that was playing American rock classic songs. It was a German band playing American rock classic songs like Creedence Clearwater Revival and Elvis, and stuff like that. And we're all dancing to the music and just being happy and enjoying each other's company. And I remember at one point, all of my friends get the attention of the front man of this band, and they tell him that I play music and that I'm from America. And at this point, I was so tipsy that I just didn't know what was going on. And he calls me up onto the stage and he says, "Oh, you can play a song with us then." And I barely have any sort of at this point, I'm not even really present. I'm not even really there. And I go up on the stage, and he puts the guitar on me. It started escalating very fast, and he brings his iPad up and he says, "Do you know any of these songs?" And there is one song by Creedence Clearwater Revival. I forget what song exactly what it was, but I was like, "Oh, I actually kind of know that song." And I start playing through the chart and playing the chords, and he says, "Well, I I don't need you to play the rhythm guitar. I need you to play the lead lines because the front man he plays the rhythm and he sings." And at that point, I took off the guitar and I said, "I think I just want to go dance." So it was all love, and he laughed. He had a big laugh, and he said, "Okay, go and dance." So I went back down onto the floor with my friends, and before he sang his next song, he said, "I want to dedicate this song to a special friend who's visiting from California. His name is Shahin, and this song is called Hotel California." And he played that song, Hotel California. And again, we just everyone thought it was so amazing that he, like, at least gave me that opportunity to go up on stage, and he shouted me out. And after that, we danced for a few hours, and then we got back on. Oh, I think actually Sonia's brother came and picked us up and drove us back home. We might have gone to like a local pub or something like that, but at that point we were already kind of gone. So we went back to the house, and my Dutch friend Fritz uh, ends up rolling like a spliff, half tobacco, half cannabis, and we're walking around this town at like 2 a.m. This small German town, very cute little German town at like 2 a.m. And we're just talking about life and love and all these beautiful things, and that was it. And then we went back to the house, and we fell asleep, and fell asleep with a smile on my face. And I've been doing this practice of recounting beautiful experiences in my life because I've realized that beauty is really what we're after here in life. And I think that beauty is the purpose of life. The expression of beauty is the purpose of life. And when I was taking a walk in the neighborhood earlier this morning, I was looking out at all the plants, and it's the springtime right now. And there was a bed of poppy flowers, and I just looked out at that bed of poppy flowers, just basking in the sun. And I could see that nature went through so much work so that these poppy flowers could sprout and blossom and be beautiful. And I took a walk around the backside of my house. This is my family's house, and we live by a canyon. And at this time of the year in the springtime, the canyon becomes filled with wild flowers of different colors. There's wild mustard flowers that are yellow, and they cover the entire hillside and canyon. And there's also just wild flowers that are purple and white. And the sun was just beaming down on them, and the wind. There's a gentle breeze. These flowers were sort of swaying in the wind, and I just stood there and I was taking it in. And I was like, this is the purpose of life. You know, this is why life exists. This is why we were made. So that we could experience life, so that we could experience this beauty. And in addition to the experiencing of beauty, we ourselves as human beings can create and express beauty. And that's really where art comes into play. I believe that every human being on this planet is an artist. Just most people don't realize that. But the real brilliance of life comes from when you can find beauty in tragedy. When you can find beauty in the darkness. I remember when I was younger, my family and I would always take trips to Malaysia. My mother's Malaysian. I'm half Malaysian on my mother's side, so we starting from when I was 4 years old, she took me and my sisters to Malaysia, and she introduced us to the country. And we went back multiple times throughout my childhood, and I went again when I was 6, when I was 11. I think again when I want to say like 15. Again when I was like 17. So I think in the course of my childhood, I went like to Malaysia 5 times or something like that. But I remember the time, the person that would always receive us and host us when we stayed in Malaysia was my aunt, my mother's sister. And she was this really hardworking woman. She owned her own restaurant in a food court, and she would wake up every morning at like 4 or 5 a.m. and she would prepare the food for the day. And she'd go out and she'd set up all the food and she'd serve the food throughout the day, and then she'd come back late at night and she'd do it, all over again. And when we came, she that was the only time that she would take some time off of her from her work and get her, have some workers cover for her. And we would take road trips up the coast of Malaysia. Sometimes we'd go visit an island, or sometimes we'd go visit my mother's hometown, which was across the country. And we would stay in hotels and things like that. And my aunt was just always the one who was with us, always the one who was showing us around. And she always really went out of her way to make sure that we had the best time that we possibly could during our stay in Malaysia. And when I was around 16 years old, we found out that she had developed breast cancer, and they had caught the breast cancer very late, so there wasn't much that they could do about it. So we went to Malaysia. This was already when she was had stage 4 cancer. We went to Malaysia, and she wasn't in great shape. You could see she had been undergone chemotherapy for a few months at that point, and she was very disoriented and very weak. And you could see that it was, she only had so much time to live. So I remember we went to visit her for 2 weeks, and for most of those 2 weeks, she couldn't really travel around or anything, so she stayed home. While we would go travel and see other people, she would stay home. And I remember the last day that, it was the day that we were leaving Malaysia, and it was time to say goodbye to her. And everyone was outside already, and my aunt, she was in her bedroom, and everyone was outside. There was a 2-story house, so she's upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm getting all my stuff out of the room, making sure that everything is that I got everything. And I knew that this was the last time that I was going to see my aunt. So she called out my name. She yelled out, she said, "Shahin, come here." And I went into the room and I just started crying. Because and she started crying too, because we both knew that this was the end. This was the last time we'd see each other. So and there was really nothing I could say at that moment. I was a 17-year-old kid. I didn't know what to say. I just said, "I love you." And I gave her a hug. And we embraced each other, and she gave me a kiss. And that was it. I left the room, and I walked downstairs, and I got in the car and got on the flight back to the USA. And I knew that this was the last time I was going to see her. So, yeah. And she passed away a few months later. And the next time I went to Malaysia was, I think it was like something like 6 years later or something like that. And it was for my cousin's wedding. My cousin got married. And she got, it's my cousin is my aunt's daughter. And so I was there for the wedding. and it was just so great to see all my family again. And obviously, there was sort of that emptiness in the air that my aunt wasn't there. That was the first time I've been to Malaysia where my aunt wasn't there. And I think it was 3 years later after that I went to Malaysia, and at this time, my cousin had 2 kids already. Within 3 years, she had 2 kids, and one of her kids was like 3 years old. And we were all hanging out in the family room, and my cousin's daughter starts singing a song, and that song that she was singing was my aunt's favorite song to sing. And that night before going to bed, I realized that life goes on, and that this little girl that was singing this song only existed because of my aunt, and that I was here in Malaysia only because my aunt, and that my aunt continues to live on even though she's passed from this world. So I started crying again, but I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I saw the beauty of all of it. Life's about the purpose of life is to experience beauty, to see the beauty, and to express the beauty. And beauty is everywhere when you look for it. Thank you very much.